When I did my video about photography with the Mini 3, I was really impressed with the low light capabilities. In this department it even managed to beat the mighty R2S, which to me is a great drone and a benchmark for photography. So I decided to go deeper, but before diving into our analysis, let me give you a few essential tips to shoot good low light photos. First of all, make sure that you know the area where you will be shooting, as in low light the obstacle sensors will not work, and the visibility is obviously extremely low. In case of an unknown location, it is better to get there earlier for some recognition flights. Always use RAW files, as low-light photos require serious post-processing to recover the shadows, and obviously RAW files contain much more information. Using automatic exposure bracketing to take 5 photos with different exposure value is very useful to make sure of having at least one image perfectly exposed. It is also possible to merge the 5 photos to HDR, which often gives excellent result. Controlling the values for ISO and shutter speed is critical in low light, so always use manual exposure. The Mini 3 for a lightweight drone has a relatively large sensor at 0.77 inches and an extremely wide aperture of f1.7. Therefore, it should be able to gather plenty of light. Let's start with some images taken 30 minutes after sunset. I know, someone is going to say, but this is not low light. Believe me, it was very dark. Here at the moment they are trying desperately to save money of energy, so they only turn the street lights when it's pitch dark. The result in my opinion is very good, with plenty of detail in the shadows, nice colors, and a very good structure of the sky. In my opinion, these are the perfect scenes to test the ability of a camera in low light. There is still a tiny bit of twilight, or if we are lucky, some moonlight, just a touch of artificial light, and ample areas of vegetation, sea, sky, to appreciate how the shadows are reproduced. Very often I see low light tests based on some big cities with a huge amount of electric lights. This is not what I call low light situations. Actually, there is plenty of light, and the challenge is rather to avoid overexposing the highlight. But even in these night scenes, the Mini 3 once again performs extremely well, as it managed to keep the highlight under control while maintaining some detail in the shadows. I have obviously done some editing, especially to lift the shadows, but I have not used local adjustments or masks, which is a very effective way to further improve the shadows without affecting the highlights. I have not applied any denoising in any of the images. With the Mini 3 the image quality is practically the same at ISO 100, 200 and 400, and this is excellent. At ISO 800 we notice just the first hint of noise in the sky, but hardly noticeable. Otherwise the quality of the image at this value is still close to perfection. In most cases in photography we don't need ISO values higher than 800, as we can use shutter speed values much longer compared to video. But in a few extreme situations I have tested ISO 3200 and after denoising I managed to get some decent result. The performance of the Mini 3 at different ISO value is simply astonishing. It is hard to believe how much the technology has improved compared to previous models of the DJI lineup. Regarding shutter speed, I find that good image can be occasionally obtained with a value up to 1 second. But in the range from a quarter of a second to 1 second, we are in a hit or miss area. The results are inconsistent, and we can often get a serious loss of sharpness due to camera shake. To stay on the safe side, I suggest to use 1/5 of a second as the slower shutter speed. If you are into photography with this drone, it would be interesting to know your experience in the comment below. And don't hesitate to hit the like button if you find this video interesting. It helps to spread the video to more viewers. I took all the shots in automatic exposure bracketing and I merged each of them to HDR. Then I compared the resulting image with a single photo of the same scene. In most cases, I got better result with the merged images, especially in shots against the sun. But there are cases where the merged images show some artifacts, especially when strong artificial lights are present or with moving elements like cars. So, it is an excellent idea to use this method, and if the merged image doesn't work as expected, we can use one of the single shots, which will always be properly exposed, as we have taken 5 photos with different exposure values. For editing the images and merging them to HDR, I have used On1 Photo Raw. You can watch my video about this program by clicking on the link on the screen now. You will find info about it with a coupon code for discount on the price in the description below. The Mini 3 has the ability to shoot video and photo in vertical format without loss of resolution. It is a feature meant mostly for video to be posted on certain social media platforms, but I really like it for photos, as it opens up new creative possibilities. As you can see, the results are excellent even in low light conditions, with plenty of detail in the shadows. The Mini 3 is not a detail beast, especially in the elements towards the background. It is not necessarily a negative point, more of a matter of personal taste. Some users might even find the image more natural. Personally, I would prefer a touch of extra detail. The Mini 3 has a quad-layer sensor of 12 megapixel on real resolution, but it can split each pixel into 4 smaller ones, thus creating a sort of 48 megapixel mode. But at the beginning it was a disaster in situations of high dynamic range and low light, with a huge amount of chromatic noise. After a series of firmware updates, the 48 megapixel mode has improved a lot and is starting to become actually quite interesting. But the performance in low light and high dynamic range is still subpar. There is definitely less info in the shadows, and often a bit of chromatic and luminance noise. This is not really surprising, as smaller pixels are less capable of gathering light compared to regular ones. Actually, some high-end video cameras offer a reduced amount of pixels in order to have bigger ones for better performance in low light. So, exactly the opposite. The 48 megapixel mode is still work in progress, but it is becoming interesting for more detail in certain light conditions. Click on this link to dive into photography with the Mini 3 in all different conditions. And don't forget to hit the like button if you found this video interesting. Thank you.